the sun. To dream, believe.
Let's listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
This is Murphy. Woof, woof.
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the IDAHO4 case. And folks, although whatever's going on in this Kohbeger case is beyond perplexing, as I'm going to show you here in a minute, we are now one major step closer to filling in some of the final blanks in the investigation into the real perpetrators in the IDAHO4 case. And once again, it's because of the wonderful Bubbly Waters. She has got a hold of the plea agreement for Mr. Gill. And as you read it, it is almost exactly what we thought. I'm going to show you some crazy stuff in this one, I assure you. And we'll go through and we'll read. I don't have that indictment. Bubbly, I'd love to see the rest of it. So if you'd put the rest of it out, that'd be great too. But I'm going to read what I actually pulled from Bubbly's channel. Thank you, Bubbly. And we're going to go through some of the finer points of that indictment and some of the details that it lists. And then I'm going to show you those details and how it adds up to everything we thought in the IDAHO4 case. It is unbelievable. I will fill in a lot of blanks, just like what you heard in the beginning of this video with that perpetrator that got out of the vehicle on Linda Lane right before 350, cocks his gun, and then walks directly towards the King Road residence. I had it pegged that was cocking back the hammer on a 40 cal. Somebody in my comments actually suggested that sounded more like an AR-15 type rifle. Well, it turns out, I believe now it is a SKS. And matching it up to that SKS being cocked, it sounds awfully similar. I think you would agree. Go back and listen to the beginning again if you're unsure. It is most certainly a firearm. I'm thinking it's an SKS, and I'll show you why as we read this indictment. It is insane. Let's just get right into it. Okay, so I just pulled the parts of the indictment that I think are very important. We're going to read it first, and then I'm going to show you after we read it what it tells us. In 2022, in a partnership with multiple co-conspirators, Mr. Gill made multiple trips to Arizona to purchase large quantities of narcotics that he or the co-conspirators transported back to the Western District of Washington for the purpose of redistribution for profit. Now, we know from looking at past indictments that it included Washington, Spokane, all the way to Idaho, all the way up to Alaska. But look where the involvement of Mr. Gill starts in this investigation. And that's why I always said it was when you took Gill, Slocum, and Cervantes, you had to kind of separate them from the rest because they were a cell all on their own. And they did not get on to Bryson Gill and his co-conspirators until November 27th, 2022, about 5 days after they picked up Farley in Spokane. On November 27th, 2022, in a lawfully intercepted phone call between Gill and a co-conspirator, co-conspirator A, Gill directed co-conspirator A to get 20 blues in a bag and drop it off to an unidentified co-conspirator. On the way to the woods, the term 20 blues refers to 20,000 pills laced with F that are marked with the M30 insignia to mimic prescription Oxycontin pills. The woods refers to a property in Shelton, Washington, rented by a co-conspirator. Co-conspirator they call B, but we now know who co-conspirator B is. It's Michael Warren. And you know that from reading his indictment because he's the only one who had a house in Shelton. So, co-conspirator rented by a Michael Warren that the conspirators used as a stash house where they stored controlled substances and paraphernalia intended for pressing F powder into F-lace pills. And then I got it cut off a little bit. You see Adam right there. Blueberries was coded language for referring to F pills. Now, when it talks about co-conspirator C, that is Michael Slocum. And we're going to learn a lot about Mr. Slocum in this. And I know that co-conspirator C is Mr. Slocum because later it talks about where they picked up co-conspirator C, and that was in Concho, Arizona. And Mr. Slocum was the only one they picked up in Concho, Arizona. So we know he's co-conspirator C. So Slocum checked with co-conspirator A and confirmed for Gill that they had 24 left at the Shelton stash house, which referred to 24 bags containing 10,000 F pills each. Now, what you're going to learn through this is Gill is the leader. He's calling the shots, and it was Slocum who is his muscle. Later that day, in a lawfully intercepted phone call, Gill told Slocum to pull 40 out and put them in a bag, which was coded language directing Slocum to prepare a bag of 40,000 F pills for a future drug deal. Slocum told Gill that they needed masks and gloves because they were about to break into it right now. This referred to breaking into packages of powdered F that Gill and his co-conspirators intended to press into F pills to later sell for profit. In a subsequent intercepted call, Gill told one of his customers, "We're done mixing it, we just need to press it." In subsequent phone calls, Gill provided Slocum the numeric combination to a safe located in a recreational vehicle parked at the Shelton stash house. And told Slocum that he had thought that there were bricks of F in the safe. After opening the safe, Slocum reported to Gill that the safe contained waters, which referred to METH. Following this call, Gill met Slocum and whoever co-conspirator A is, I'll dive in and figure that out, at the conspirator's stash house in Shelton. That same night, in a lawfully intercepted phone call, Slocum told Gill that he dropped off co-conspirator A and asked what Gill wanted him to do next. See, he's a soldier. And Gill told Slocum that around midnight they will go grab some straps, referring to guns. A few minutes later, agents intercepted a call between Gill and a drug customer he was about to meet up with for a transaction. That customer sent a courier Gill didn't recognize. Gill told the customer, "Somebody pulled up as we're sitting here and I got my pistol out. These guys don't play around." The next day, November 28, 2022, in a lawfully intercepted phone call, Slocum complained to Gill that co-conspirator B, which was Warren, was not picking up his phone, and complained that whatever co-conspirator B Warren did to the pill press at the Shelton stash house, it was making the pills look like SHIT, and that they were fuzzy and were not clean like the other ones. Referring to the pill press, Slocum said, "It looks like this thing isn't pressuring enough, and there's enough powder and all that's right, but there's not. It's too loose. It's not pressing." Gill then told Slocum that he would call Warren to attempt to remedy the problem with the pill press. Then on December 1st, 2022, in a lawfully intercepted call, Gill directed Slocum to provide 1,000 F pills to a customer. Later that day, in a subsequent lawfully intercepted call, Slocum confirmed that he met up with the customer. On December 2nd, 2022, Gill called Slocum to confirm Slocum took everything out of his trunk. Slocum told Gill there's an SKS in there, referring to an SKS-style rifle. "You want to put that in my bed?" Gill then directed Slocum to take all the bad stuff out of your car and reminded him that he had no plates on his car. This is going to be key right here, y'all. Take all the bad stuff out of your car. He had no plates on his car. I'm going to show you what all this is telling us here at the end, and I think you'll agree 1,000%. Later that day, in a lawfully intercepted call, Gill and Slocum discussed a plot involving another drug dealer. When Slocum asked Gill, "If I do snatch him, where do you want me to take him?" Gill instructed Slocum to take him to a known location to ensure the drug dealer didn't have his phone and to not say Gill's name and to confront the drug dealer about why he hasn't been answering the phone. Now, you can take this how you want it, but I know what this means. If I do snatch him, take him somewhere, make sure he doesn't have his phone, he's telling Slocum to snatch that dealer up, take him somewhere where he doesn't have his phone, don't tell him his name so he doesn't get scared, so that Slocum can handle the business. Slocum is the muscle. He handles the business for Gill. Later that day, in a series of lawfully intercepted calls, Slocum told Gill he was outside the dealer's home. Slocum admitted to Gill that he didn't know what the drug dealer looked like, and Gill agreed to send a picture. Slocum then reported to Gill about the layout of the drug dealer's house, including security cameras, and said that because of the cameras, he was trying not to look suspicious. Law enforcement diverted any potential plot by sending a marked police vehicle to contact Slocum about suspected burglaries in the area, and immediately after being confronted by law enforcement, Slocum left the area. So whoever this dealer was that they were going to go snatch and handle, you can bet law enforcement was working with them. They were now informants because they knew they were going to do this. And to stop them from getting their informant, law enforcement diverted the situation. They pulled up on them, acted like they were talking about burglaries in the area to get him to leave. So they knew what they were doing, and I'm sure Slocum probably knew what it was about at this time too. But then on December 3rd, in an intercepted call between Gill and a drug supplier he regularly supplied with narcotics, co-conspirator D told Gill that there was an extra 10 in there. Gill replied, "You got 80, right?" This referred to Gill providing this customer with 80,000 F-pills. Co-conspirator D then said he only gave Gill 42,000 in cash and owes Gill another 6. Law enforcement previously intercepted a call where co-conspirator D said that Gill had 800,000 F-pills available. But then on December 4th, Gill traveled to Arizona with Slocum to pick up a large shipment of narcotics. So December 4th, Gill heads to Arizona with Slocum. December 6th, Slocum drove back without Gill, just Slocum, towards Washington in a white GMC pickup truck towing a trailer, arriving on December 7th at the stash house in Shelton. All right, so Gill goes back on December 4th with Slocum to Arizona. Slocum then drives back to Washington from Arizona in this white GMC pickup truck towing a trailer, all on December 7th. This is important. On December the 9th, law enforcement served a search warrant on the Shelton stash house and located, among other things, a bunch of narcotics, pill presses, cash, and Gill admits everything's part of the traffic in there. And, oh, by the way, you talk about Breaking Bad, look at this. The METH was 98% pure, resulting in 12,500 grams of pure METH. Now, that's Breaking Bad percentage pure right there. And it's even more Breaking Bad here in a minute, I'll show you. Co-conspirators as part of and furtherance of the conspiracy to distribute controlled substance with intent of selling drugs for profit included firearms found at the Shelton house, a Winchester shotgun, which was located on the property in the trailer that Slocum had transported from Arizona. In that trailer, along with the shotgun, was the bulk of all this other stuff. Handguns, rifles, everything. Now, another key point. In Slocum's black 2012 Mercedes-Benz, which was parked on Gill's property, law enforcement located a loaded Sig Sauer 40 caliber pistol behind the front seat, along with 3 loaded magazines. In the trunk of the Mercedes, law enforcement found a stolen handgun with a high-capacity magazine, Springfield Armory St. AR-15 rifle, silencer, Omega 9K firearm suppressor. But here's what's important. You see, before December the 9th, when law enforcement ascended on that property and got all this stuff, Slocum had driven back up there in the GMC pickup. The GMC pickup was confiscated on this property during that seizure. Slocum's Mercedes was confiscated on this property during that seizure. Slocum had got out of there on December the 8th and headed back to Arizona. And we know that because they didn't catch him until a few months later in Concho. So if Slocum drove the GMC back up and he didn't drive it back and he didn't drive his Mercedes because that was found on Gill's property, the only thing that he could have driven back would have been the vehicle that did not have any tags on it, that had all the bad stuff in the trunk. That's what Slocum drove back to Arizona. That's what they found in Eugene, Oregon, abandoned, wrecked and abandoned. It follows the date patterns exactly perfect. He left there on the 8th, hung out in Eugene, where he was actually from, and eventually had to abandon that vehicle because he wrecked it. I don't know how he got back from there after he wrecked that vehicle and abandoned it, but it all follows exactly the path, and it's the only way he could have gotten back. So it was Slocum, the enforcer, that was driving back the Eugene Elantra that had no plates, had the bad stuff in the car, and had an SKS in there. There's an SKS style rifle in there. You want me to put it in my bed? That was all in that white Hyundai Elantra. Take all the bad stuff out of your car. You can bet that bad stuff is these guys. They weren't as sharp as I gave them credit for. They probably still had the garbage bags with their clothes and stuff in it in the trunk. And then finally, on December 10th, in a lawfully intercepted call, Gill told a co-conspirator that the FBI and DEA came to his house, the other house, and each one of my people. He told the co-conspirator they got the stamper and everything. Gill also told the co-conspirator that when he saw law enforcement coming, he threw a pistol out the back window and law enforcement didn't find it. But from December through March, defendant continued to work with Slocum to establish a new stash house in Concho, Arizona. On March 22nd, agents raided the Concho, Arizona address where they seized the rest of the stuff. So he was the only one, Slocum, that was arrested in Concho. So co-conspirator C absolutely is Slocum. They were on to Gill and Slocum from December. They couldn't get them until they got them all in Arizona. That's where they got Cervantes too. But now I think it tells us everything we need to know. Gill is the mastermind. Slocum is the muscle. So when we start looking at things like the Linda Lane footage, when you see that BMW X6, and it doesn't matter if it was a wrapped Model M that Gill owned or if he just went and rented a BMW X6, because we know that he has a propensity for BMW X6s, it doesn't matter. You can guarantee yourself that that BMW contained Gill and Slocum. Gill was pulling through, showing Slocum where he had placed the knife, and that was at about 12:30. And then you can bet he dropped him off right around the corner, and that's Slocum we see walking up the road at Linda Lane at 3:15 and getting that out of the dumpster. I'm about 98% sure at this point. And why do I say that? Let me show you. November 22nd, 2022, Farley's arrested in Spokane. The feds go up there, get him. They'd already been looking for him, and he turns them on to Gill. November 27th is when they first start getting documentation against Gill and the others. December 2nd, that's when Gill tells Slocum, hey, the car has no license plates, get the bad stuff out of it, and it's also got an AR-15 in it. And by the way, Slocum owns the 2012 Mercedes that's confiscated on Gill's property. December 4th, Gill and Slocum both head to Arizona. But then on December 7th, Slocum arrives back in Washington, but this time driving a GMC truck and trailer, carrying a whole bunch of narcotics. But then on December 9th, law enforcement ascends on that property and they seize everything. But what they also seize includes the GMC that Slocum drove back up and his Mercedes. So the only thing he could have driven back, leaving on December 8th, was that car that had no license plates. And we know that heading from there back to Arizona drives straight through Eugene. Slocum has a long history of living in the area, and the Eugene Elantra was found abandoned on December 17th. Then on December 8th, oh yeah, I got Slocum driving back towards Arizona. But remember this, Slocum and Gill go off the reservation on December 7th. He heads back to Arizona on December 8th. They start busting in and seizing everything on December 9th. That is the exact date, if you coincide it with my other timeline, that law enforcement takes all of the agents off of the IDAHO4 investigation and assigns them somewhere else. Where'd they assign them? To this investigation. They had to hunt for almost 3 months before they could find Gill, Cervantes, and Slocum down in Arizona. And you want to talk about Breaking Bad? Take a look at Concho, Arizona, where they had their new stash house. All right, so here's Arizona. They got Gill and Cervantes down here around Phoenix. You can see here's Buckeye, where we located that dealership that sells the Rainbow motors. But over here, look at this. Here's Phoenix. This is all desert. You talk about Breaking Bad. You go to Concho, look, it's just nothing but desert. Here's the little town out here in the middle of nowhere. And look at this little town of Concho. I mean, it literally consists of three perpendicular roads and, two and a half basically horizontal roads. And all of the properties are, like what you would see in a Breaking Bad episode. Look at this. This is where they finally got them. This is insane. Good grief, I've been waiting for that information for a long time. Thank you so much, Bubbly. I'd sure like to read the rest of that thing if you wouldn't mind putting it out. When I got a new computer a month or two ago, all my other passwords were saved in my old computer, and I don't remember my password for my Pacer account, and it's too much trouble going through and I don't even remember my username, finding my username and password and all that to get back in it. So, but here's the real question, folks. If I can put all that together, I'm pretty sure that the feds would be able to put all that together. And if they haven't, they sure have, they sure have a head start on putting it together now. So what's going on with this case, the IDAHO4 case with Bryan Kohbeger? We don't know. I checked the court docs this morning. The case summary was updated yesterday with some new filings as it relates to replies for the expert witnesses, but absolutely nothing has hit the court docs as it relates to the subpoenas that were issued and the subpoenas duces tecum, the Frank's motion hearing, the rulings on motions to suppress. Nothing. They updated the court docs yesterday. They could have posted that stuff. So they're keeping everything out of our eyes right now, and they're running out of time to produce the information. So what's going on? Are they finally figuring out the things that we've been figuring out this whole time and realizing that keeping this stuff silent's not going to be, a good thing for them to continue to do? Especially when you look at the headlines of the news the last few days, and the Trump administration is asking for resignations for all of the U.S. attorneys that were appointed by the Biden administration. So when I say U.S. attorneys, I'm talking about like the U.S. attorneys that were running those OCD ETF operations in Washington and Idaho. Maybe that has everybody puckered up a little bit, seeing the transparency that's going to be coming from that, and maybe they're deciding to do the right thing in this case. And I don't know. We can only speculate at this time, but they're sure not telling us anything, and they're running out of time. But thank you, Bubbly. I'm pretty sound in my theory now. If I had to name my suspects today, they would be Gill and Slocum, Farley, and Leonard. That's who I would settle on. Maybe I'm not right. Maybe there's more. Maybe there's less. Maybe there's different folks. That's my call as of today, though. But we'll continue to look into it and see what we can uncover from here. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. And until next time, Pavarotti's out.
to dream